And now, the starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the cow killer, Casey McAllister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Yo, yo, yo! Welcome in on this lovely Monday morning. You are watching Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Reid Mouse. I'm hosting for one more week. Shout out to Tom for filling in last Friday on that sudden change. Miami got moved up to noon. Couldn't do the show. I'm sure you guys preferred Tom anyways, but we had a jam-packed weekend of sports. Final weekend, regular season in college basketball. All the news with the local baseball team, the Cincinnati Reds. A lot of news. We'll get to that later. Then the NFL was just popping off left and right, and I anticipate that it will be doing the same. This is probably the least focused show that we've had since I started hosting last week. But there's just so much to talk about that we're going to have a lot of fun. Drew Garrison's going to come on later. At 11:30, we're going to talk Bengals. I know that you guys love Drew. We thought we'd bring on Drew and just yap it up. At 11 o'clock, I would like to hear from you guys about the Cincinnati Reds. I figure you don't want to hear from me about them, so we'll just have an open discourse about what's going on with the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously, the Noelvi Marte, Jose Barrero, Frankie Montas, a lot of news. And speaking of news, we will finally get a checkup from the boys on the road. Haven't done a vlog in a while. Haven't done anything. The number one question I fielded this weekend was what's going on with those guys' road trip? So we'll get a call in from there. I saw they pre-recorded a video. I saw about a minute of it, and it pissed me off. It pissed me off a little bit. I'm not gonna lie about it. Probably shouldn't have been that mad at like 7:30 this morning. But here we are, Casey McAllister. To my right, Casey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Reid. I'm doing fantastic. I had a nice little quick rundown with Tom at the 9 o'clock hour. Got in my quick rundown of all the news and headlines going around in the world of sports.
Right.
And
yep, a lot of news.
We're
and
here.
You know what? We'll just go ahead and dive right in. I said last week that I wanted to start every show off with a monologue. I wrote this monologue last night about 9 o'clock. More news came on later that I think was more pertinent, more impressive, but I just want to give credit where credit is due, and that's the guys I don't like, or more specifically, a guy I do not like. This guy I haven't liked pretty much since he entered the NFL. Maybe even before that. He seemed arrogant. He seemed cocky. He's loud. He's brash. Maybe his worst crime is he thinks that everyone is out to get him, and maybe that's true. Maybe that's self-imposed. But this man taught me kind of a lesson. And that lesson is one that you've heard before, we've all heard before, and it's just believe in yourself. People can think you're cocky. People can think you're arrogant. But if you have faith in your own abilities, in your own talent, if you have faith in yourself, then nothing can stop you. Of course, that man is Baker Mayfield. And the reason that I don't like him is pretty evident. He went to the Browns, in-division rival, and he was just so loud right from the get-go. He always killed the Bengals, too. And like I said, it always seemed like he thought people were out to get him, and maybe they were. The Browns, who have had a terrible run of quarterbacks, very famously, the jersey with 25 names on the back, they finally get a guy that wins them a playoff game, they kick him to the curb. For the first time in Baker Mayfield's young career, I felt a little sorry for him. At the time, I thought the Browns were making the right move because I thought that Baker was limited as a quarterback. I think that I would take that back now. But Baker Mayfield got a $100 million contract in free agency this past year. After getting kicked to the curb, he bounces around as a starter, backup at a couple different places, winds up in Tampa Bay. They've got a pretty decent roster, and once he takes them to the postseason. Wins a playoff game. And he gets rewarded. $100 million. And I think the thing that has come up because of this is from the guy that a lot of people in the league hated, a lot of fans hated, all of a sudden becomes the plucky guy that everyone roots for. In fact, when he signed the contract, there was a hashtag trending. Hashtag good for Baker. And you know what? Good for Baker. He teaches a lesson that we all probably should have, and that is just continue to believe in yourself. And I know I get up on this soapbox sometimes here, and I get a little preachy. Just who I am. I'm sorry about it. But out of all lessons an NFL player could teach me, believing in myself is certainly at the top of the list. But Baker Mayfield, congratulations. I think he's a very good quarterback. He's one of 5 quarterbacks, I think, half a dozen maybe, that have won a playoff game in each conference. Each league, AFC and the NFC. So congratulations to him. I think Tampa Bay is going to be that's a bad division. I think they can win that division again. Casey, before we get to the rundown, your opinions on Baker Mayfield getting signed to a free agent? A $100 million deal?
You know, I don't mind it. Look, you as a NFL GM have a couple of different options, right? You can either take what's given to you, what the known is, and a guy that was able to get you a playoff victory, right?
Right.
I mean, I'll take that. He's what, 2-2 now in the playoffs? So
yeah, listen, he's one of like 6 quarterbacks that have won a playoff game in each conference. And it's not even about his play. It's not even about that. Like, I think he's a fine quarterback. He's obviously not one of the elites. I think I did my top 15 last week. He didn't make it. Honestly, I think I'd rather have him than Brock Purdy, but that's neither here nor there. I think I'd succumb to pressure. But he's Baker. He's a guy you can root for now. He came in kind of like a villain, and now he's the underdog. Now he's the hero. So, congratulations to Baker.
I have breaking news.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It's really bad breaking news.
I just looked at the chat, and I want to die.
Bengals franchise receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade, per sources. Higgins loves Cincinnati and hoped to be with the team long-term, but is disappointed that the team has not had any talks about a long-term extension since March of 2023. He's ready to move on to a new home. March of 2023, excuse me? We haven't talked to the guy since March of 2023?
Yeah, that's not good. Here's the thing about the T requesting a trade. It's good and bad. It's good and bad. If you talk to anybody that, and I'm doing this off the riff, haven't had time to think about this, but if you talk to anybody what their opinion was on T. Higgins, what the Bengals should do with T. Higgins, I would say the majority of people that had an opinion would say, I would like to trade T. Higgins. I would like to get draft picks for T. Higgins. But here's the problem with it, right? He's forcing the hand that we wanted. The trade only worked if the value was there, right? I don't think anybody's willing to trade T. Higgins for what Jerry Jeudy just got in Cleveland, a 5th and a 6th. In fact, I'd want to puke if that happened. I'd vomit right on this beautiful, beautiful desk. It was always like a late 1st, early 2nd. I think most would even concede for a mid-2nd. But now that it has come out that he has requested a trade, it kind of shorthands his value, or at least shorthands your leverage in these trade talks. Now it seems likely if he's requesting a trade, will he play if we don't trade him? That's happened before.
God.
A whole year we haven't talked to him.
That's ridiculous. A whole year? We haven't talked to him at all in 2024, according to what their side says. That is borderline almost unacceptable. It's blasphemous. Think about it. It's been a whole year since we had talks with him about his contract situation. Now, before I get I'm not
gonna get warped up in the whole. It's been a whole year. I get it. It's bad. It looks cruddy. You know, and to be honest, when it comes to these kind of talks, I think we kind of overvalue the negotiations, right? I think we look too into the tea leaves when it comes to the negotiations. The simple fact of the matter was that there's a slew of young talent going into the NFL via the wide receiving position. There's also wide receivers, rightfully so, that think they should be getting, like a T. Higgins, around $100 million. And I think the Bengals always knew that wasn't likely. At least not on a long-term deal, a 4-year deal. You can get him on a short term, but even then, why would you not just franchise tag him for 2 years? This hurts because it plummets his value on the trade. It plummets. It doesn't plummet his value. It plummets the leverage that the Bengals have when doing these trade talks. If he is told the Bengals outright, I want to play for another team, I want to be traded, and I will not play for you guys under the franchise tag next year, what the hell can the Bengals do? We talked about the worst case scenario for T. Higgins was that he plays on this franchise tag and we get nothing walking out the door next year. There's now a new worst case scenario, and that is that he doesn't play at all, and you get nothing. The Bengals go to trade talks, and, you know, everyone's like, hey, with Jerry Jeudy 5th and a 6th, T. Higgins is much better than Jerry Jeudy. But you have these talks, and they go, well, there's some other guys coming around for a 4th. We'll give you a 4th and a 3rd. Is that what we're going to do? 4th and a 5th? A 3rd and a 3rd? Like, what do we...
This is worst case scenario at this moment.
Well, I mean, like, if it works out, if there's a team willing to give up a 2nd-round pick for T. Higgins, then it still works out.
I think there's also another scenario that it works out, and that's a player-for-player trade. Like, could you imagine a scenario where the Panthers give up Derek Brown, their star defensive tackle, who's on his 5th-year option in his rookie deal? That makes sense to me. That frees up your cap space. It's a win-win. You get a position filled in, and, like we've already said, plenty of receiver depth in the draft. Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me, but the trading for picks now at this point, it does not look good. It's not looking good. Jerry Jeudy is definitely not T. Higgins.
Right.
We can agree
with that.
Andre
Yoshivas had double the touchdowns of Jerry Jeudy last year.
Right. So a 5th and a 6th, maybe that translates to a 2nd and a 3rd for T. Higgins.
Hey,
I don't know.
Listen, 2nd, 3rd, I'm game. I think we're below a 2nd at this point.
I think
we're below a 2nd.
I think
what seems likely is like a 3rd. Like I don't think we're getting a 2nd. And I saw someone in here, overreaction could be. I'm not a GM. Never claimed to be. I'm just out here spitting what I think.
Yeah, we're not necessarily overreacting to the idea of, like, we don't know what his value is. Me and Reid are not experts in the minds of these GMs, but we do know for a fact that this does not help his value whatsoever, especially him requesting the trade and making it public hours before the tampering period begins. I mean, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look, and I read into it a little bit more. Ian Rappaport said, T. Higgins has, in fact, requested a trade. As Adam Schefter said, the franchise tag is meant to keep long-term talks going, but Higgins' camp had no such talks before the tag was administered. Now the trade has been requested today. So, I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, we all wanted him. The best scenario was him to be traded to get value for him. I think we all agree with that.
First-round pick, I said if a franchise called up and said, hey, we'll give you the 30th pick for T. Higgins, you do not hang up the phone. You get on another line. You call the NFL office and you say, hey, we got a trade. Can we put this through? I was even ready I would do the same thing for an early 2nd-round pick. If we can still get a mid-round 2nd, I'm cool. It's whatever. Like the leverage is gone, but it's still whatever. It still works. I think you can get a good wide receiver in the 2nd round. I think, especially with the amount that T. Higgins has missed the field, if you get someone durable that plays 16 games as a 2nd-round talent, you can get similar production. T. Higgins was a 2nd-round pick, and I think we all know that he exceeded those expectations. But Yeah, I don't know. If you want to, you guys, spin zone, little spin zone, frees up $20 million in a class where there's a lot of free agent talent on the defensive side of the ball.
If they were to get a trade done, I mean, Christian Wilkins is a serious player.
Eric Armstead.
Eric Armstead? Yeah. Michael Winu, another guy. I mean, all those options become a lot more realistic at that point.
Right. It's there's a lot of that's the spin zone. If you want a positive, you know what? This is what you come to Off the Bench for. You know, we hear some terrible news. We hear our dog's dying, and we say, hey, we got to get a puppy. What a terrible analogy. I'm sorry for that one. I retract the last 15 seconds of things I said. But at the end of the day, I'm going to overreact for the next 5 minutes and maybe for the rest of the week. But if you still can get a second-round pick for T. Higgins, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not gonna knee-jerk reaction. Comes out of that, it's a fourth and a fifth, third and a fourth. Yeah. Don't love that. Don't love that whatsoever.
I do have one other scenario for you. If it's not just getting additional picks, what if it's trading T and moving up with your 18th pick as well? You're combining the 2 picks and you're moving up.
T in your 18th to get in the top 10?
Yeah. Would you do that?
I mean, if it puts you – who's the second wide receiver? Obviously, Marvin's the first.
Malik Neighbors. There's
if you can get a guy like Malik Neighbors, then, yeah, that works, right? Because then it just – like the options were, or if you can even trade up and get a guy like Joe Alt, one of these top tackles, that's sexy.
I like that.
That gets me very excited. That gets me Blue Chew excited.
I would be all for that too. I mean, it's not doom and gloom, but I just feel like the biggest potential is gone at this point. That is probably for sure put to bed the high second round and a third round. It's probably put to bed a first round. We're probably looking at a low second round or a third. Maybe you combine those two, low 2 and low 3. I don't know, but
it's
we'll see.
Yeah, it is a wait and see thing. What's funny about this, guys? We've made jokes on this show about how often we've talked about the T. Higgins stuff over the last few months. Go look at our videos. And there's probably a T. Higgins clip about every week we post on YouTube of us debating what we should do with T. Higgins. Ramp it up. Fire up the mills one more time. Let's keep it going. But here's what's so interesting about this is like how quickly does, if they are going to trade him, how quickly does it get done? Are we talking weeks? Because, like I said, the fact that free agency starts today, if we are intending to trade T. Higgins, it's got to be done soon. So the money that you've allotted to pay 5 can be used elsewhere. And like I said, there's plenty of safeties. There's a lot of interior defensive linemen. You can solve a lot of problems. If you get that $20 million free. Don't ever waste a good crisis. Bengals should not waste this one. But unless this move means one thing for sure that I think we kind of already knew, but now it becomes incredibly evident, is that one of the first 3 picks in the draft, probably one of the first 2 picks in the draft this year, is going to be a pass catcher. I don't think it necessarily shifts what the Bengals were planning on doing with their first pick, which was kind of trending towards tackle. But it makes it incredibly important that the Bengals get a pass catcher in the first 2 rounds. Because we're not just losing T, we're losing Tyler Boyd. I know neither one of them had a fantastic year. T turned on late. Tyler was dropping passes for some reason. But we're going from the team that had 3 star wide receivers, right? Jamar, T Boyd. So now we're going into next year with 1? Without a tight end that you would really like. Is Tanner Hudson the answer there? No. Drew Sample is the answer. But this team goes from everyone looking at this squad. Oh my God, look at all the weapons on this squad. There's a likely scenario in which Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins don't play in stripes next year. And I don't think that's the end of the world. I don't think that's the end of the world. I think you could easily replace running back. I think that there's more talent flooding in the wide receiving pool than ever before. So it's not the end of the world, but those holes, all those holes that we talked about at the end of the season, going like, man, the Bengals got a lot to figure out. Got a lot to figure out between now and September. Add a couple more. So, in conclusion of this T. Higgins talk, before we get to the rundown, is that I'm still okay. Because I was the guy pushing. I would like if T got traded. I'm still okay if the Bengals can get a mid-second round pick. I'd be cool with what Casey alluded to. You trade your first pick and T. Higgins to get top 8? Sure. And by the way, who wouldn't want to do that? Like I forget all the teams in the top 10, but you get T. Higgins and you get another first. I mean, you lose, like you drop back 10 picks, but you can still get a first round guy.
Right.
If you're one of those teams that feel like you're close to competing, makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't know. All right, Casey, let's get to the rundown.
Yeah, let's get to the rundown. Beginning with college basketball. We cool with that?
Yeah.
Houston, over the weekend, shredded Kansas 76-46. Kind of destroys my Kansas take that they play up to their opponents. I think they are just very wildly inconsistent. I think that they proved that against Houston.
Houston's a dog. The Cougars, they're cats, meow. But Houston's they're banged up right now, so they're not full health. But Houston is really good now. Everyone has gotten on to the opinion that thinks when you play a slower game, it makes you easier to get bounced early in the tournament. Houston, I think someone put in the chat, are there only 3 teams that can win it? I feel like we do this every year, but yeah, I'll go in that camp that Houston is one of the select few that I think can win the national championship.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. But they've looked like that for a while. They're always really good the last couple of years. Kentucky, they beat Tennessee 85-81. I guess it's technically an upset if you're looking at the rankings, but I don't think it was an upset in terms of the betting side of things. Arizona and Iowa State were both upset. USC and Kansas State beat them respectively. UNC sweeps Duke this year. 84-79 was the final this weekend. Ohio State beat Rutgers 73-51.
They keep rolling.
Are they?
I don't know how close they are to being a tournament team, but
Ohio State.
Yeah,
they're close. They have won 5 out of the last 6 or something like that.
Red hot.
They're red hot. Really, really good.
John Diebler. Or is it Jake Diebler? Which Diebler?
It's Diebler.
Diebler. One of the Dieblers. They're from Upper Sandusky, which, by the way, is an hour south of Sandusky. So, yeah.
The Deebs, as Elliot likes to say. Moving on to the local basketball team. Xavier lost to Marquette on senior night, 86-80. Quincy Oliveri had his final game here at the Cintas Center. They play Butler in their tournament. That game is Wednesday at 4. And a win would mean that they would play UConn, the number 1 seed.
Yeah, so they've got a tough road ahead. I think Tom said that they would need 3 wins in the Big East tournament to get over 500. Will you get that clip that I sent you, Paul's tweet about Sean, the audio clip? Yep. We'll get to that in a second. But they need to win 2 games, essentially, to confirm that they won't go under 500. But they play UConn, so, yeah, tough sled. There was this report, Paul Fritchner. Quitter Paul, Big League Paul, thank you for coming on the show last week, Paul. We love you still. But he tweeted out this snippet from Sean Miller. And for all the rumors that Sean's going elsewhere, this is what the head coach of the Muskies had to say.
Moving forward, this is our last game of the year here in Cintas. We will never, ever, ever have a team like this again in terms of depth and quality. It's up to us to get back to where we rightfully deserve. When a couple guys go down in the middle of the summer, I'll call that an outlier moment. But moving forward, this is a huge spring and summer for us, and I'm looking forward to coming back here next year with a deeper, more experienced, ready-made team, talented team.
So a lot of rumors. Tom even mentioned it on his show. OSU really wants to get Sean Miller. Sean Miller says, I'm looking forward to coming back here next year with deeper, more experienced, ready-made, talented team. I'm looking forward to coming back here next year. Sean Miller ain't going nowhere. Muskie's got one of the best coaches in the nation. Yeah, he's sticking around. I think he put that to bed. Maybe he's lying. I don't know. Coaches lie. But I like what he said. What else we got?
Yeah. After that, the Cincinnati, the Bearcats, they stomped West Virginia. They get payback. They beat them 92-56. The same two teams will be facing each other in the opening round of the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City on Tuesday. And if UC were to win against West Virginia, they would go and play Kansas. And we already kind of went through the gauntlet that they have to go through earlier on with Tom, but they would probably have to play Houston and Baylor and Iowa State just to potentially have a chance to win. How many games does UC need to win in order to have a better shot at the tournament? Like 3?
They got to get to the finals probably, the Big 12. Once again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but it seems likely that they gotta get to the finals at the bare minimum, the semifinal. And the thing about UC as opposed to Xavier is UC does compete almost any given night. They can't get over that hump, but every night they're at least there. They're in it. So them winning a couple games, like, it's not incredibly far-fetched to think that they could go on this masterful run. I think it's likely, no. They're probably NIT bound. But stranger things have happened in this crazy world of college basketball.
Yeah. And I want to say after that, we're going to cover a little bit of NKU. They're looking to make a trip back to the big dance. They play 6th seed Milwaukee. And I know I kind of said my piece on this earlier this morning, but out of the last 10 years, they're 13-7 against Milwaukee or something close to that. And out of the last 5 years, it's like not even close. It's like 10-2 or something like that in that span. So they've been very dominant against Milwaukee as of late. NORSE up, Reid. That's right. NORSE up. And we're looking forward to Darren Horn putting together another trip to the big dance.
Yeah, we should get Darren Horn on next week when the boys are back. He doesn't want to talk to me, but we should get Darren Horn if they win. If they win, that was an exciting game. I saw you and Tom covered it on Friday. I watched last Thursday their game. Trey Robinson, Hamiltonian, proud Hamiltonian, Hamilton Big Blue. By the way, congrats to Hamilton and Baden for winning districts. First time that's happened in a long time. This city's on the rise. Big Blue on the move. But, yeah, it was an exciting game. Good luck to the Norse in the Barbasol, what was it, Barbasol Horizon League tournament?
Yeah, the Barbasol Horizon League tournament. The shaving cream tournament. Dayton, they beat VCU 91-86. That makes them a 3rd seed in the A-10 tournament. And they play on Thursday. So for all the Dayton fans in our chat, there you go. We covered
Good luck,
a little bit.
Good luck, Flyers. Hey, you want me to talk Dayton basketball? Why are you guys 3rd in the A-10? Huh? Be better. Be better, Flyers. Good luck. Good luck to them.
And that brings me to our Reds news and information.
So when we get on the Red stuff, we're going to hear a check-in from the boys in about 15 minutes. I asked them, talked to them yesterday, and I said, hey, I know you guys are on Pacific Standard, but we haven't heard from you guys in a while. Hasn't been a vlog out. Can you guys call in? A lot of Reds talk. I figured that people would want to hear the host of the Chatterbox Reds talk about all the big Reds news. So I said, hey, can you call in? I know it's going to be a 3-hour difference. They said, what if we just send you a video? So they sent us a video about like 3:45 in the morning. After we play that video, it's about 20 minutes long. We will do ads, and then we'll start accepting call-ins where we'll talk about the Reds a little more. But, Casey, what's going down in Reds town?
Yeah, so we'll cover I'll just briefly mention all these things, and then we'll talk about it later. Nick Lodolo made his first appearance. Pitched 2 hitless innings against Cleveland. Matt McClain was in the lineup for the first time since his injury. He did nothing of note. Jonathan India returned as well. He hits a home run on his first bat. Interesting. Very interesting. Frankie Montas is the opening day starter.
Yeah, that's surprising. That surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think Trace was beating the drum that he said Frankie Montas is going to be the opening day starter. I think people read into this a little too much. I know in Reds opening day, and really all places, it's a big thing to be the opening day starter. But here's the thing: Hunter Green still maybe besides Ellie De La Cruz raises the ceiling of the Reds more than anybody else. Like if Hunter Green can turn into the pitcher that he can be, that significantly raises the ceiling of the Cincinnati Reds. So he still has every opportunity to be the ace. Just going with a veteran arm that's pitched pretty well this spring.
Yeah. I believe he said even that Frankie Montas has a chance to be a Cy Young winner as well. He's a big
seems
Montas
pretty goofy.
fan.
Listen, people see that Frankie Montas about 5 years ago finished not first, not second, not third, not fourth, not fifth, but 6th place in American League Cy Young voting, and people are like, this is a Cy Young contender. I mean, come on, guys. He could be an all-star, but he's not a real Cy Young contender, especially not in Great American Ballpark. He doesn't have that kind of stuff.
Anyways, moving on. Jose Barrero, another one of Trace's guys, the Barrero stand, was placed on waivers and was immediately picked up by the Texas Rangers. Apparently, I'm not super versed with the Reds' Twitter, but the move was a little confusing. They weren't facing any 40-man rosters issues, and he's only 25. They had an ability to keep him around so he doesn't leave, but they don't. And now he's gone.
Yeah, the interesting thing between him and Noelvi Marte, which I don't think you've gotten to him yet, but we'll get to him and we'll talk about him in great deal, is the Reds go from having one of the most deep middle infields or infields period in the MLB to losing 2 guys that could play considerable innings, considerable games like that. Noelvi Marte suspended 80 games. Jose Barrero, see you later. And Jose Barrero wasn't expected to start or anything like that. But, someone goes down. Jose Barrero at least has some veteran time. But we're like, yeah, this can still work. So just 2 big depth pieces, or a starter, Noelvi. Obviously, that lowers the ceiling. And then a depth piece like Jose Barrero. And you can kind of cut into what this infield could be. Now, still, the guys that everyone's most excited about, Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain, are still there. But, man, it's a tough 1-2 punch that the Reds took over the weekend. And like I said, we'll hear from the guys in a little bit.
I have some more breaking news about the Bengals.
Oh, my goodness.
They've re-signed Travion Williams. That's the news we wanted to hear this morning.
Yes. Travion Williams, you give him 300 carries, he's going to get 1,400 yards. Bible it.
That's the running back to replace Mixon, right?
Right.
That's the guy.
Right.
That's what we were waiting on. Here comes the Mixon news.
Travion Williams was always funny because you know that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood drinking the beer on the recliner? Early in the year before we saw Chase Brown, it was you'd see Travion Williams like 3 times a game. You'd be like, Travion! Yeah, he just never could crack into the starting lineup. Depth. If anything, this just makes it to where there's not complete holes, right? I don't think it does anything considerably, but it's not complete holes at the running back position. There's Chase Brown. Now you got Travion Williams. And we'll see what happens with Joe Mixon. I think it's likely that they release him. Maybe the whole T. Higgins stuff makes it to where they just go, all right, we can't go into next year with a completely new team, which I'm okay with. Once again, running backs are what they are. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Joe.
We'll see. We'll see. That brings us to, going back to the Reds, Noelvi Marte.
Yep.
Was suspended for PEDs. It's not quite confirmed what the substance was. Lots of rumors, according to Tom, that stuff that he's heard from around the grapevine, that it was something that was legitimate. Not sure if he made a mistake or not, so we'll just have to wait and see.
So he was caught with the substance. I'm going to pronounce this wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm not a what's it called? Pharmacist. I'm not a pharmacist. I don't give out steroids. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. It was a steroid. It was an anabolic steroid that he took, or at least that he got with. I'm not going to speak to cheating or anything like that. I think that there is nuance towards the idea of these players coming from. Where's Marte from? I'm gonna Google where Noelvi Marte is from. But there's nuance to these guys that if they can make it to the show, right? He's from the DR. If they can make it to the show and earn that contract, they set up their family for forever. And that weighs heavy on these guys. The pressure of getting to the show is something that shouldn't be slept on. And sometimes these guys, anything to get an edge. If you're a competitor, you want to get that edge. You want to get up on the competition. Sometimes you cut some corners. But like I said, I'm not gonna speak to this. I just say there is nuance to the guys that want to take. They just want to be the best athlete that they can possibly be. They want to make it so that their team and their family is set up for life. Noelvi Marte going to miss 80 games, can't play in the postseason. I think it's a very unique thing. That what do you do when he can come back, right? He's going to have to take an assignment. So he's missing half the season. Then he takes an assignment and he can come back. Do you even play him? Because he can't play in the postseason. And people are like, why wouldn't you play him if he's one of the best? Well, it's because, you're going to just, whoever's playing third base, you're just going to sit him, play Marte, and then once the postseason starts, you go back to benching Marte. That doesn't get you ready to play in the postseason. And I know part of the charm of going to the postseason is hey, let's just get there and see what happens. But I'm a big proponent of play with the guys that got you there. And if he's not a part of the overall plan, then why is he a part of the plan in the midterm? That's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that later in the second hour. Casey?
Brings us to the NFL news.
We're at 10:40 and we're still doing the rundown. I love this show.
Yeah, this weekend was packed full of stuff to talk about. Lots of news. Free agency starting tends to do that. Russell Wilson. Apparently he is signing with the Steelers. You have here for $1.2 million. That's crazy because we all expected it to be low, but that's literally league minimum. Means that Mason Rudolph will more than likely not be the backup. And Russell Wilson had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Last season, he had a pretty decent season. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like now over in Pittsburgh.
So I last week I did a lot of talk about Russell Wilson. I was saying that you guys, I think it was groupthink that he played terrible. He didn't play terrible. He actually played pretty well last year. Everyone's like, well, he got benched. Well, they got benched because they were tired of him. He wasn't worth $45 million or whatever they were paying for the long term. So they're just, hey, let's Sean Payton, let's get somebody new in here. But then I reported, hey, you can get Russell Wilson for $1 million. Makes a lot more sense to pay Russell Wilson $1 million instead of pay Kirk Cousins $40 million, at least in my opinion. This is a team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, that have haunted my dreams. They won 10 games last year with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. You got to think that they are going to be better this year with Russell Wilson. Here's the biggest question towards that move, in my opinion. Can Russell Wilson, did he get humbled in Denver? Because all the news about Russ when he was in Seattle was no one liked him, right? And there's a lot of players that people don't like. But think about how many Seattle Seahawks came out afterwards and said, Russell sucked. I didn't have Russell's number. Spoke out. You hear discourse between players before, but very rarely do you hear people go out and talk badly about another guy. And he wants to be the guy, right? Russ, Mr. Worldwide, whatever he called himself. Not a very humble guy. Goes to Denver. And Sean Payton doesn't like him right away. Hard-nosed guy. So now he's played under Pete Carroll. He's played under Sean Payton. And now he's going to play under another hard-nosed guy. Now, if there's anybody that can maybe humble Russell Wilson, I'd like to think it's Mr. Aviators himself, Mike Tomlin. But I wouldn't say that it was a perfect fit, right? Football-wise, it makes a lot of sense. You majorly upgrade at quarterback. You're paying him $1 million. Another team's paying for him. And you won 10 games last year. Now you can all of a sudden compete in the division that is, I think, the best. I think it's far and away the best division in football. But does it fit? Does it work? The Steelers' wide receivers are a bit of prima donnas. This is a defensive-heavy team. Can Russell Wilson find it himself to humble himself and, take a step back? That is what I'm worried about with Russell Wilson and Pittsburgh. I think they're going to be a better team, no doubt about it. But, come on. Russ, look in the mirror. Don't be the same Russ you were in Denver. Or be the same Russ you are in Denver. I'm a Bengals fan. Yeah, do that. Do that. Go suck again. Casey, what else we got?
After that, I have here Eric Armstead last night will be a free agent. The 49ers wanted to take a pay cut, but he declined, and so now he will take his talents to free agency. And he's been kind of linked to the Bengals because they need some defensive lineman help.
So this is what we're talking about. I had a take last week. I would love to see it come to fruition, and I said that out of all of the holes that the Bengals have to fill, the hardest one to me, right? Though the one that you can't replace either with cut rate veterans or in the draft, the hardest one would be interior defensive line. That's where I said, let's go spend a lot of money on that. The last 5 Super Bowl winners, and those are just the last 5 that I can think of, have had a great presence on the inside, on the interior. Chris Jones, UDF, Aaron Donald, just to name. That is, pass rush is king when it comes to defense, but if you can push back the pocket in entirety, man, that's such a disruption. Such a disruption. It helps your edge rushers. It helps everyone. So I think, the Bengals, between Christian Wilkins, I know Matabike is staying put. I know Chris Jones signed the $100 million contract. I didn't even put that in the rundown, but he signs
150.
What?
150.
150. Gets paid, gets buku bucks. But now you can get a guy like Christian Wilkins. You can keep a guy like DJ Reader. You can get a guy like Eric Armstead. There's plenty of options. Bengals, go do it. Please go do it. What's the Shia LaBeouf? Just do it.
Do it, man.
Do it. Casey, what else we got in the rundown?
After that, we already talked about Baker Mayfield and Chargers. They're currently in trade talks, trying to trade away Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they're also, I know you didn't write it on here, they're also trying to trade away Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Other 2 guys I would love for the Bengals to try to obtain as well.
What's Khalil Mack still had like 17 sacks this year?
Khalil Mack he still had quite a bit of sacks.
All right,
He
ready?
was in the top 10.
You ready? You ready to whirl up the GM machines?
Yep, here we go.
Over here.
Put on the
While the
GM
Chargers are trying to cut guys left and right, would you take a guy like Keenan Allen and Khalil Mack, T. Higgins, in our first-round pick?
Trade it. Wait. Hang on.
Would we give up T, our first-round pick? That for Mike Williams. I hate when people do this, but I'm doing it right now. We get Keenan Allen, Khalil Mack. They get T. Higgins and a first.
Oh, my God. I don't think we would have the cap space for it, but if it wasn't an issue, I think that would be worth it. That'd be an all-in move. I think I would be okay with that. Go for it. Why not? You get a Hall of Fame caliber type edge rusher. You get a guy that's similar size to T. Higgins. Why not? Let's run with it.
Yeah, no one liked that one. I hate when people just speculate random stuff. I'll wait for the professionals to do it. What else we got?
We also have Kirk Cousins. He is actually just closed the door just minutes ago. He is going to test free agency. So most likely place Atlanta, according to Adam Schefter.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins most likely will end up in Atlanta. And that didn't close the door. Didn't close the door in Minnesota. Justin Fields in Minnesota, wouldn't that be something? I don't think that the Bears, if they're already tentative to trade Justin Fields in entirety, they probably want to do it in their own division. Man, wouldn't that sting if he turns out to be a stud? I don't think he will. I think he'll be fine. But Kirk Cousins can take that Falcons squad and win that South. I think that South can improve. I think the Buccaneers came on late. I think with the Falcons getting Kirk Cousins, which seems the most likely scenario, they raise. Who else we got? Panthers are still going to be bad.
Yep.
Who's the fourth team that I can't think of in the NFC South? Saints. They're still nothing. Derek Carr, that didn't work out, and I don't think it's going to continue to work out. But yeah, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta certainly makes sense in a weak NFC.
Absolutely. Now, let me clarify. That was reported by Duff Kleinman, which means that's not really an official report.
Correct, but
he's not a real person. But anyways, 90 minutes from now, we'll probably hear that exact same thing that I just said. Kirk Cousins probably going to Atlanta. Anyways, Justin Fields, the interest for him has died down quite a bit. Most teams are looking at Kirk Cousins for that quarterback of the future, especially now with the move from Russell Wilson. I would imagine that the next domino, before we find anything else out with Justin Fields, is Kirk Cousins. We'll have to wait and find out.
It's interesting with the whole Justin Fields thing, and I obviously beat the drum on this quite a bit. Caleb Williams, Bear stuff. We're not going to do that today. We'll probably do it. I got 10 more hours of this for this week. We'll probably do it at some point this week. But the Justin Fields stuff, I don't know how surprising it is that he isn't being looked at by a whole lot of people. I think we're in such close proximity to Ohio State that we heighten what Justin Fields is. I also think that the Bears fandom, the Bears media, Chicago media heightens what Justin Fields is because they haven't seen what good quarterback play is. Jay Cutler's the best quarterback in Bears history. So, yeah. I think it's, Justin Fields, he's certainly not better than Daniel Jones. He's certain, it is what it is. I still will I'll cover my tracks, and I think this will be true. Justin Fields will, in the near future, wherever he goes, will win like 10 games. And people will go, man, I told you he's going to be good. But I don't see it going much higher than that. I don't see a ceiling much higher than that.
Rounding out this last bit of NFL headlines news, Mac Jones traded to the Jaguars for a 6th-round pick, and Jerry Jeudy traded to the Browns for a 5th and a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. I think I sent you a clip about Jerry Jeudy. What a weird guy that fella. If you remember, this is from draft day. It's a funny clip from Jerry Jeudy. Before I get into this take, Casey.
So my last name Jeudy. People sometimes call me short for Jew, like one Jew. So I just got a Jewish star. So yeah, I'm not Jewish though.
Homeboy, where's the Star of David? Because his last name is Judy. Can't make that one up. But Jerry Jeudy, he obviously had great expectations going into the league. He hasn't really panned out. You still see flashes of it. He had 2 touchdowns last year. Andre Yoshivas, I think, doubled that up. 5th and a 6th. I think everyone was like, man, the Browns got away with murder here, right? They fleeced the Broncos. We'll see. Jerry Jeudy seems a bit like all the stuff that came out last year. What was he fighting with Steve Smith at one point pregame?
Yep.
We'll see what happens there. He's certainly a talented player. The Browns, credit to the Browns. This is an arms race in the AFC North. And the Browns, maybe better than anybody, are just stockpiling talented players. Jerry Jeudy's a talented player. I don't know if it will come out on the field, but in this arms race that is the AFC North, they continue to just bring guys in that have high ceilings. Jerry Jeudy's one of those people. So we'll see what happens there. What was the other one that you mentioned? Mac Jones. Mac Jones being traded to the Jags. I like the move for the Jags. I think Mac Jones, I don't think the book is closed on Mac Jones. I think he played terrible last year. But he was a Pro Bowler just a couple years ago. He looked pretty good his rookie year in New England. I just think New England was worse than we are maybe talking about. New England was terrible, especially offensively. With Trevor Lawrence having some injury problems, Mac Jones seems like an upgrade in the backup spot. I know people are going to point out that Mac Jones has better stats or something like that than Trevor Lawrence. listen, you guys can sell the Trevor Lawrence stock all you want. I'm not selling the Trevor Lawrence stock. He's too talented. He's been an incredible quarterback every step along the way, other than 1 year in his rookie year. So 2 years, but he was pretty good 2 years ago. Whatever. You sell the Trevor Lawrence stock, I'll buy some more. Is that it for the rundown?
Other than the NFL draft is less than 45 days away, I believe. So coming up, we'll be talking about a whole new Bengals team in roughly 45 days.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals do in the free agency, right? Because while we are doing mock drafts and you can kind of insinuate where the Bengals are going to go, I think a lot of dust has to settle before you really get a clear picture on what the Bengals are going to do in the draft. You got to figure out what we're going to do with Joe Mixon. Obviously, news just came out about T. Higgins. What the heck are the Bengals going to do about T. Higgins now? Interior lineman, defensive lineman, right tackle, cornerback, safety, tight end. They probably had to get a pass catcher anyways. Now it's become even urgent. So let's see where the dust settles before we go, this is what the Bengals need to do in the first round. Let's let the dust settle before this is what they need to do in each round. This is how the Bengals shore up their entire team. Let's just see what happens, right? The Bengals, for the past few years, have made signings that we didn't think were coming. Orlando Brown last year. Obviously, their entire offensive line the year before. Like, they continue to make moves that surprise even us Bengals fans because of what we've been trained to do, right? What we've been trained to think as Bengals fans. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I hope it comes sooner rather than later for the sake of me hosting this show for the next week. All right, Casey, I promised these guys at 10:45 we're a bit behind. So here we're laying out. I'm putting the show together last night, and there was so much news. Obviously, there wasn't the news about T. Higgins yet. There wasn't the news about Russell Wilson. But there was so much Reds news. And I was thinking, who can I have on the show tomorrow to talk about the Reds? Well, it just so happens, working here at Chatterbox Sports, that we have a show under our umbrella that is the most watched Reds show. That is one of the top baseball podcasts in the country. Chatterbox Reds. Hey, let's call the host of those two shows. They're on a trip for content. Oh yeah, we haven't seen any content from them in a while. Let's just get an update. And I said, hey guys, know you're on Pacific Standard Time. Think you can call in for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just giving an update. And they said, what if we pre-record a video? We don't want to wake up that early. What if we pre-record a video and send it to you? Sure, that's whatever. Just make sure we have it. And so. Here, they're in Vegas, and this is their reactions to their trip. This is their reactions to all the Reds news, Noelvi Marte, Frankie Montas. I'll be completely honest, I haven't watched the video in entirety, but it is about 20 minutes long, so here's an update for the road for you guys, the boys on the countrywide trip.
Thanks, Reid. Really appreciate you sending it to us here in Vegas. Here's the thing. I just want to start off by saying this. I don't know how long the segment's going to be, but it's going to be what it is. And these guys are all worried about all this stuff, off the bench this, off the bench that. Nick's trying to get this full-fledged setup. I'm in Vegas, okay? The last thing that I would like to do after driving 4.5 hours and when I get to Vegas is to sit down and do a 15-minute segment on the very, very important sports talk that exists right now in Cincinnati.
Well, you could call tomorrow at 7 a.m.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Cut it. What the hell was that? They're making fun of us. They're making fun of us for trying to put content out every day. Hey, guys, you're doing a content trip. And, hey, we're going to go live every night. They went live the first night. We're going to put a vlog out every day. They put a vlog out the first day. We haven't seen. Over the weekend, I went out and about in Hamilton on Saturday and Friday night. You know the number one question I had asked was, hey, what are those guys doing on the road trip? What are you guys doing? I don't get that. What's going on there? Huh? And I'd have to explain. I'm not telling you, guys, I had to explain it once, twice, 15 to 20 times. Everyone would come up to me and would just be like, hey, what's that road trip about? Like, I don't know what that's about. How they get, I haven't seen anything from them. And on top of that, they're the hosts of one of the best baseball podcasts in the country. And I'm sorry if I want to talk to you guys. I am, you know what, actually, now that I got a second about this, I'm sorry. I didn't consider their opinion. It is what they're going through is very tough. They are traveling across the country. It's tough going up in the mountains of Colorado and seeing the beautiful nature of Estes Park. I didn't think about how tough it was for them to go to the Sunflower Showdown in Allen Fieldhouse between K-State and Kansas. Listen, before I asked them to come on the show, I didn't take into consideration the fact that they went to Denver Ball Arena and saw one of the top teams in the NHL and saw likely the NBA Finals. I didn't take into consideration the fact that they went and saw one of the seven wonders of the world in the Grand Canyon. And I certainly, oh my goodness, I feel so bad for them because they got to go in the midfield, center field, whatever it's called in NASCAR, and get, press passes at the NASCAR event in Phoenix. And I certainly, those poor guys. Those poor guys, I'm about to cry. I didn't think about how hard it was for them to spend a night in Las Vegas, America's playground. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I mean, come on, Reid. You should know working Miami baseball games for 6 hours out of your day is nothing compared to driving across the country, doing all those just hard, intensive labor trips, like watching the Celtics get beat by the Nuggets or watching the natural disasters, the Avalanche, just destroy the Red Wings. Those are just so much more harder in terms of what we do here with Miami.
Listen, it's
not
about what's harder, whose job's hard. I'm not doing that. Because certainly there's times where I haven't been the best employee. I guess I just didn't consider what they were going through. I did not consider that. It's tough, I'm sure. I'm sure what they're going through is tough. Luckily, we haven't seen it. I mean, maybe we will at some point see how truly tough it is because they're on day 7 of the trip, and we've got one day of the vlog. We've got one live show from them. So maybe I'm being a little hard on them, but maybe it deserves because I just don't know how tough it's been for these guys. So. Casey, go ahead and run the clip. They'll give you their opinions on the Cincinnati Reds. I'll hop in the chat. I'll be talking with you guys there. All right, Casey.
I mean, if they don't, we'll be here to give our Reds opinions.
Sure.
So don't worry, we got you covered.
Yeah. All right.
The Reds found themselves in a couple situations. Nick and obviously Elliot. We've discussed those a little bit on Chatterbox Reds. But we now find ourselves in a position where we didn't think we were going to be in with Noelvi Marte. Your overall thoughts on just that situation quickly, and then we'll move into more fun stuff.
Yeah, it's just disappointing that got suspended for 80 games. Disappointing that was using steroids, but look, you just have to move on. I think the biggest disappointment is that he's ineligible for the playoffs because I think all of us are expecting and hoping that the Reds can make the playoffs this year, and not having a player of Noelvi Marte's caliber really hurts your chances in the playoffs. I think the Reds can still get to the playoffs, without Noelvi Marte for half of the season, but their depth that they've been touting all offseason and for good reason is tested already.
Don't whisper things while he's trying to be serious.
Well, this is a very serious sports talk show.
I
was trying to prepare him.
Can I give my serious?
I was trying to prepare him and tell him what you need to talk about next. So go ahead.
Can I give my very serious opinion on this?
Would you
matter?
stop holding?
I want to hold the pillow. Bring me back my pillow.
Go.
So here's the thing, Noelvi Marte. I think he's a very good baseball player. Will you guys stop?
I'm not saying a word.
Okay. So Noelvi Marte, again, he's a very good baseball player, despite all this nonsense. There's going to be an asterisk, unfortunately, on his entire career, and that's just what it's going to be. Because when you cheat and you get caught and you get suspended, it sucks, but that's what you are. At some point, you're just a cheater, and Noelvi Marte is certainly a cheater. 80 games, and the biggest issue here is, and I didn't even know this rule until Nick told me, the rule is that he can't make the postseason. So if he does come back and he does contribute, like I thought he was going to this season, it's not going to matter really because in the postseason he's not going to be there, and that's where I think it hurts the most. My thoughts on Noelvi are unfortunately they've gone down. Obviously, when you see somebody like that who I thought was a damn good baseball player have to use, I believe, injection steroids. It's tough, and honestly, it makes my outlook on him a lot worse. I think the Reds are going to be fine without him, but saying that, it's definitely a gut punch as we're about to start, in my opinion, one of the more exciting seasons we've had in about 15 years.
I think the solution is relatively simple, though. I mean, I think Xavier Candelario is going to play third base. I think that India and CES are going to split time at first base, and they're hopeful that Matt McClain and Ellie De La Cruz are going to be the middle infield duo that they're going to have for the future. So I don't want to act like it's not a big deal, and it's obviously a big loss. But to think that the season drastically changes, expectations drastically change, I don't think that's the case at all. I think if anything, not that this is a bright spot by any stretch of the imagination, but if there was one position group that you could say, hey, we could afford to lose somebody or we could afford to have something happen, the infield is probably where you would pick. So far, so good. Nick Lodolo, to jump into a position group, if you want to call starting pitching position group, probably the most important, in my opinion, of this ball club is what do you get out of these starting pitchers, because that was the glaring issue last year of all the things that went wrong, if you want to say that. The starting pitching was the problem. Lodolo came back today, threw the ball relatively well, looked good. Had good velo. It's up to 96.
96 average was 93 last year.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's just because he's got amped up, but we'll continue to watch that. Matt McClain. He's a guy that, again, they acted like he was going to be fine. We all, at least I did, collectively held my breath because we've been told things before that didn't come true.
Sure.
Remember last year when we were supposed to get all these horses back at the end of the year and Lodolo never came back, which is part of it. But Matt McClain did play. Went over 2, but he still played. So
good to have him back.
And Jonathan India?
Home run on Sunday.
Yeah.
Played left field Sunday, played first base Friday night, his first game.
Yeah. So, Elliot, that's the bellhop. Yeah, I mean, I know he's new here. Listen, Elliot's, you can tell very clearly, it's very evident. I don't know if he's ever checked into a hotel before. I don't know if he's ever called down to the front desk before. I don't know if he's ever needed room service. I don't know if he's ever even really... Have you ever even been in a hotel that has room service?
Yeah, I stayed in a couple. Unfortunately, I didn't have any of that last night.
I think we did. There was a sign.
When you put me up with the rats and the sewage that was all on my floor, which I slept on.
Right.
But that's okay.
I got a question for you. Did I offer you a bed?
At the end of this video,
no, did I offer you a bed?
So here's what the situation is. We've got 3 guys who snore and 3 guys who don't snore.
Yeah.
Trace's plan yesterday was, and I'm not as bad of a snorer. I don't think. Maybe I am. I don't think I'm as bad of a snorer as Nick and Taylor. But again, maybe I am. I don't know. I don't know the difference. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Trace tried to save me, and let's have 4 guys in a room with 2 people on the floor and 2 people in the beds. I said, no, let's not do that. Let's just keep the snores together. It makes more sense that way. So that's what we did. Really. And that's what happened. So yeah, it is nice to see. But when this video ends, I'm going to have Jeremiah show the people this nice little room here because it's a lot better than the La Quinta. The La Quinta was not very good. In fact, I give it a 0.0.
It's just a place
on
to
my
sleep.
scale. You guys were talking about something Reds. I lost count. Can I talk about something fun now?
Frankie Montas.
Oh, yes.
And opening day starter.
Frankie Montas.
Who said that before?
I think Trace did.
Oh, interesting.
I think Trace did. This is something Reds fans are going to overblow. It's Hunter Green, Frankie Montas, Nick Lodolo. We need all these guys to be good. I don't care which one of them's good on opening day, as long as he's good. And this is where I think Reds fans like to overreact on Twitter, because Frankie Montas, I really do think, is going to be the best pitcher on the staff this season. I believe that. He's at least going to be the rock. I think he's going to be the rock. He's going to be the guy that hopefully doesn't get hurt. Hopefully he's healthy. What do you mean?
What kind of rock?
What do you mean? He's the rock.
Well, there's some rocks
Dwayne,
that are small.
the
You
rock
can
of the
skip.
Grand Canyon.
There's some rocks that you would call maybe the foundation.
And this is
are you talking about the foundation?
I'm talking about the foundation.
All right, thank you.
And this is where you guys are starting to lose people, because this is a very serious sports talk show.
Right, yeah.
And so let me
why
continue.
you're on it.
I'm going to continue my thought. So again, Frankie Montas is a damn good pitcher. So I'm happy.
Said that.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again. I'm happy to see him on opening day. People can overreact all they want. Hunter Green,
Right.
I'll see you on game 2, and we're going to need you to be good on game 2.
That's right. He's actually throwing on opening night. Hunter Green is.
Correct, it's
he should
game
be-
2.
He should be proud of that.
So that's game 2.
Well, I'm just saying. And then Sunday, I think it's opening day for kids. You like how they do that? They try to stretch that out as long
and
as
then
they
the
can.
4th day is opening day for fans of Gapper. And then the 5th day is
3, 2, 1 night.
2 beer Tuesdays.
Right. All right. So to get back on track, though, Hunter Green did send out a cryptic message. You said
He did. So I saw on his Instagram story, he posted this after the.
All right, guys. You know what? Decided to cut that because as they're getting through the Red stuff, they start talking about their trip, and to be honest, it's just like it's very tough. It's very tough what they're going through. So I didn't. If you want to get an update from them, they'll probably go live. Certainly, they said they would. They'll go live sometime soon. At some point, that was the trip. Content trip, vlogs, whole 9 yards. Guys, you guys think this is a bit. A little bit of a bit. But that video did actually rub me the wrong way. I woke up this morning. I was like, hey, we'd love to have you guys on to talk. And they're like, we'll send you a video. And the first minute of the video is them talking bull junk. And I wouldn't have the bull junk. But I promised you guys that we'd talk about the Reds. Our viewership plummeted to that video. So here's what we'll do. We have Drew Garrison coming up at 11:30. From now until right before then, because we got to do our ads right before Drew comes on, we're going to talk the Reds. We're going to open up the lines. And I'll give you guys my opinions on the Reds. But
We'll hear from you.
we want to hear from you. I want to hear from you guys. Everyone wants to hear from you guys. Because there's a lot here. What does Noelvi Marte suspension mean for the Reds? I think Trace actually did bring up a good point. Out of all of the positions that this could happen to, this was the most depth. So you could afford a loss there. But once again, this is the thing that the Reds pride themselves in is their depth, right? And that just takes another pillar away. What do you think about Frankie Montas getting the opening day start? Here's my opinion on the Reds. And I saw John Morosi. I think I sent you this clip, Casey. Go look in your DMs. Yeah. John Morosi said this about the Reds. And, go ahead fire the clip. I think this is great. This is a great opinion on the Cincinnati Reds starting rotation. I think fans are starting to come around about this opinion, which is that this starting rotation, this pitching staff, is better than maybe people are letting on.
There are a lot of young, talented players in Goodyear at Reds camp. I know that Brandon Williamson is a guy who has caught your eye.
Really like the way that Williamson has gone about his work this spring. And we talk a lot about what numbers I care about, what things I pay attention to in spring training. My favorite stat in spring is innings. When you're logging innings and you're in Cactus League or Grapefruit League games, getting your work in and extending and being efficient, that catches my attention. Williamson is doing that. Another good start yesterday. He's been able to get his workload up. I think he's even more efficient now. He spoke after the game about getting a little bit more efficient with his secondary stuff, being able to land it for strikes. We talk about this Reds rotation, and we had the news this past week about Sonny Gray having a hamstring issue in St. Louis. This is a group of names that aren't necessarily household for a lot of baseball fans, but I would suggest you learn them. because Nick Martinez has had some good moments. He was pitching for Team USA at this time last year. Lodolo is a big-time lefty with great stuff. Williamson as well. We've got Hunter Green at the top of the rotation. They signed Montas, and they believe that he's going to be able to bounce back. This is the kind of group of pitching that I believe the modern philosophy of building a rotation is not, here are my 5 guys, and they're going to make every start all year, a la the 2003 Seattle Mariners. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's more of a relay race of starting, where maybe you have a guy that spent some time in the minor leagues, or he's in the bullpen for a while. Montas is not going to throw 200 innings this season. But I look at that group of 7, and I'm not sure that I see in the National League Central, especially given the Brewers' losses of starting pitching this offseason, I'm not sure I see a better rotation in that division right now than what the Reds have. And so I think that's going to be, for me, a sleeper postseason pick in the NL Central this season.
All right, you heard what he said at the end. I do not see a better rotation in that division than the Cincinnati Reds. And you know what? I don't hate that take. What the Reds, and Mark Fetters keeps peppering this in the chat, they've got a rotation made up of 2s. I'll ask this. I don't know if it's the best rotation. I don't know if it will be the best rotation in the Reds, in the NL Central. But I know one thing for certain, it won't be the worst. Their floor, they have significantly raised that floor. Frankie Montas, Nick Martinez, as John Morosi was pointing out, was pitching for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic a year ago. And on top of the young guys, Graham Ashcraft, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Brandon Williamson, who was consistent towards the end of last year. Their floor is so much higher than I think most teams in this division. Now, I think other teams in the division, the Brewers, I know Sonny Gray with the with the Cardinals is a little banged up, so we might see him miss a little bit. But their ceiling is a little higher. I think if my team, the Chicago Cubs, signed another big-name arm, they might have a higher ceiling. But what you're getting from the Reds is the complete opposite of last year, which is the Luke Dreamweaver games are gone. This team has made it. They are going by, they're just going to compile so many major league talented arms that some of it's got to work out, right? You don't know who the 5 are going to be. You don't know who's going to be the starting rotation when it gets to the postseason. But you feel pretty confident that at least 4 guys are going to pan out to be pretty good. 3-4 guys. You feel very confident in that. And yeah, you might have some injury problems, but once again, they've got enough guys, got enough arms, that they should be okay. The floor is so high for that rotation. I'm not ready to go all in to say that this is going to be the best rotation in the NL Central. Wouldn't surprise me. If we're looking at the end of the year and the Reds have 92 wins, I think it's pretty safe to assume that one of these guys mightily stepped up. A Hunter Green, Frankie Montas going back to all-star form. You might even get a guy like Nick Lodolo, which a lot of people are selling their stock on Nick Lodolo. I wouldn't do that yet. But this team, and shout out to Crawl, get crawled, right? Shout out to him for compiling so many arms, so much talent, that even with what everyone assumes is going to happen, that some of the young guys are going to take a step back that played well, that not all the young guys are going to pan out. Shout out to the Reds for at least going, hey, we're gonna cast a big net. Not everyone can stink. When you got so much young talent, you put yourself in an incredible position. Casey, I know you're not a baseball guy, and I'm not gonna throw you completely under the bus.
Yeah.
But from the outside perspective, because this is two outside perspectives, right? I know baseball, but I'm a Cubs fan. Casey, new to baseball. In fact, I don't know if I told you guys this, but we went on a meeting last week. Have I told them we went on a meeting last week and he was calling referees, or he's calling umpires referees and officials. God love you, Casey. I love you to death. But that was funny. But your opinion that this Reds starting rotation can exceed expectations around the league?
Can exceed expectations. Well, the expectations are that these guys stay healthier, I think. That's the expectation. And if they stay healthier, I think that means that they naturally do better than what they were last year. I mean, there was almost like, I want to say, 30 pitchers last year?
A lot.
There's a lot.
They had the Reds had an unnatural amount of injuries last year. You can't expect that to persist.
Right. And so the expectation to me, like they have prepared for the worst is what it feels like. Unlike years past, they are officially ready in case one of their starting guys goes down. And I think that's very smart of them. I think that's a good move. I think that they have good floors at the moment. Their floor is very high. Now, it's baseball, and anything can happen, it feels like, in terms of injuries. They're more fluky than they are in other sports, in my opinion. It feels like you can just have a really bad pitch, and all of a sudden you're blowing out your what is it, your UCL, your elbow or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, I think they've done a good job at preparing for that scenario. I don't know if it's going to go above and beyond average, though. Like, I don't think it's going to be some world-beating pitching staff.
And that's where I want to say is, like, there's besides Hunter Green, I know people say Frankie Montas. Trey said this guy could be getting votes for the Cy Young. I don't think that. Maybe a guy like God, I have so much faith in Nick Lodolo, and it's maybe I'm the only guy that does. But Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, those guys can actually, figure it out enough to be considered one of the top arms in the league, and can be shut down guys. Other guys in the division, other playoff teams, they have guys there. The Cubs had Justin Steele, who I think finished 4th in Cy Young voting last year. He was a favorite to win the Cy Young in the last month, obviously imploded. But you got Sonny Gray for the Cardinals. You've got Brandon Woodruff for the Brewers. You've got Mitch Keller. The Pirates' rotation's pretty stinky. But once again, I still think the Pirates are more viable than people are giving them credit for. Like I said, the floor is it has raised so much. John Morosi is on the right path when he says that the Reds have the best rotation in the division. I don't think he's quite there, but the Reds did enough to cover their tracks, right? They did enough that if there are injuries, which will likely happen, you're very rarely, if ever, going to have your 5 guys get 30-plus starts, not miss a start all year. And when your 6th and 7th guy are viable starters as well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Noelvi Marte, right? They talked about the suspension. I gave my opinion on that. Be easy on him. I think Trace actually made this point in the video that we posted on Twitter and on YouTube, is that he's going to be labeled as a cheater for the rest of his career, which, right or wrong, that's just what it's going to be. I do think people forget it eventually. Big Papi failed a drug test. He's in the Hall of Fame. But when it's the first thing you know, Fernando Tatis Jr. But what do you do with him when he comes back from his suspension? That's a serious question. That's a serious question. Obviously, the Reds have so much talent in the infield, right? That was the meme. Yes, let's get more infielders, right? Candelario, CS, India, then McClain and Ellie De La Cruz, obviously. What do you do with Noelvi Marte after PED? Let's say everything's going right? The Reds are very much in the hunt for the postseason. whether they're in first, second, third, whatever. They're in the hunt, midway point. And, we're going to do the thing. What can the Reds get at the deadline to improve their team? Oh, yeah, they've got their top prospect coming back from suspension. What can help a team more than that? Your top prospect. Everyone wants to talk about bringing in outside resources. What about an interior resource? Noelvi Marte. Yeah, he's going to have to do some rehab, or he's going to have to play some minor league games before he can pop up, but probably the Reds wouldn't be able to get anybody more talented than Noelvi Marte, even in the trade market. Right there at the deadline. But the problem is, you can't play in the postseason. So it creates this unique philosophical debate almost of, what do you do? Do you play the best player to get you there? Do you play the best player to get you to the postseason, knowing that he's not going to be a part of that team if they do make the postseason? Barring an injury, barring catastrophic play in the infield, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. Chemistry is so important when it comes to playing on a team. Getting ready, getting at bats, playing games, being in the field, playing innings. That's so important. And you are going to just succeed whoever is playing there. And there's multiple routes they can go, right? They can keep Ellie and McClain up the middle and play Candelario almost exclusively at third. They could go back to putting Jonathan India at second, move Ellie over to third, have McClain play short. A lot of movement. I will heed this advice. You never want to hurt multiple positions to improve one. That's an old adage that my dad once told me when it comes to baseball, right? If you're starting shortstop, and we'll just do it this. Your starting third baseman goes down. Yeah, like the shortstop can kind of play third base, and then the second baseman can kind of play shortstop. But why are you hurting multiple positions, right? Why are you taking a downgrade at multiple positions to solve one problem minorly? So that's the advice I'd heed, whether they do it or not. But how can you play someone that isn't going to be a part of the postseason, right? Let's assume this, right? I don't have the Reds schedule in front of me, and I'm not going to pull it up. They go into their final series needing to win it, and the team they're playing is the team they need to beat to get in the postseason. Noelvi Marte is the best option at third base. There's no doubt about that. Guy looked like a stud last year, and he's still going to have a talent. Whether he was on steroids or not, he's still too talented. Are you going to play him? Knowing that this is the last series before the postseason, yeah, that puts us our best foot forward to get into the playoffs. But does it lower your ceiling once you're in the playoffs? That you're going to sit whoever's going to play there once you get there? And I get it, right? The mentality is just get there. Baseball's a crapshoot. It's like the NCAA tournament. It's a crapshoot, guys. You get there, who knows? The Arizona Diamondbacks didn't think they were going to make the postseason. Like, they were out of the postseason in the final month. They were games away from winning the World Series. 83 wins or whatever they had. They just got hot at the right time. But for me, my opinion on what you should do is that barring a catastrophic injury, barring just completely inept play at that third base position, I don't think you can play Marte this year. I don't think you can. I haven't looked at the chat. I'm sure you guys disagree with me. But I just don't think you can. Because he's not a piece of what you're trying to build. At least for this year. That's the bigger hit. Haro, just an insane take. Hey, sorry. I'm sorry. I play with the guys that get you there. Play with the guys that get you there. Casey, it looks like you're getting ready for a call. I'll let you get ready for that. And then we got to do the ads before we bring on Drew Garrison at 11:30. So the final thing I want to talk about, and it's the Reds talk that we haven't brought up at all. Joey Votto signs a non-roster invite to the Toronto Blue Jays. So he's going to his native country team, the Blue Jays, and he played. And I saw this take on social media. Saw some people in the Discord say this. Whether it's the right one or not, you don't want to see Joey Votto, like, you don't want to see him ruin his reputation, right? You don't want to see him play this year. Bat 110, can't make the team, plays terrible when he does, right? Just a shell of what he formerly was, right? And I get it. You have such a high opinion of a player that you don't want to see him not be what he once was. You want every memory of him to be your greatest memories. But I think that's a tired take. Because who cares? If Joey Votto thinks he still has something to give, who are we to tell him, man, just cut it, man. It's the end. It's the end of your road. Just cut it. Everyone thinks that we remember players for their worst. We never do. We never do. Willie Mays played on the Mets. Does that degrade our opinion on Willie Mays? We call Michael Jordan the GOAT. Do we remember the Wizard years? No. Pudge Rodriguez bounced around the league at the end of his career. No one cared. Ichiro Suzuki, no one cared. You cared at the time. But the second they retire, you forget all about it. If Joey Votto has so much more to gain playing than for the Blue Jays than he has to lose. Don't feel sorry and think that he has to go out on some high notes. Players go out on their back. It's what they do. More often than not. You can count the guys that go out on top. It's few and far between. There's an old adage in wrestling. I know you guys aren't wrestling fans, but you go out on your back. You go out on the mat. Joey Votto's a Hall of Famer. And him batting 100 for the Blue Jays and 50 at-bats this year and then can't play for another team next year, is it going to subtract that? It's not going to change your guys' opinion on him. It's not going to change anyone's opinion on him. But it is what it is. All right, Casey, we got to do ads, and then we'll hear from our good buddy, one of the chat mainstays, Drew Garrison, one of the best Bengal follows, if you don't follow him already. And we'll wrap up the show that way. Casey, word from our sponsors.
Yeah, the Bengals Report brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
Productivity is correct. That's right. The path to innovation begins here. Visit encore.tech. Let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. You hear it? It's the magic elixir called Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. You can visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And I got a third sponsor, our lovely new sponsor, Game Time.
That's right.
Game Time is all about last ticket decisions, last moment decisions where you got to get a ticket. Well, they show you the pricing up front. They show you your seats, exactly where you're going to be at, and they have the best prices overall. All last year, when I would leave from this office to try to rush to a Reds game, I was using the Game Time app because I knew it was the most trustworthy app I could use. Go ahead, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for a $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Take all the guesswork out with Game Time.
Yeah, the great thing about Game Time is it lets you see where you're going to sit. There's not a whole lot of apps that do that. Like sometimes when you go on different ticket websites, it'll have a generated. It lets you know exactly where you're going to be sitting. And there, you get them right away. Lowest price guaranteed. It really is. It's upfront pricing. It lets you know exactly how much money you're going to spend. Game Time truly is. So use that code OTB. You get $20 off your first purchase on qualifying offers. All right, is Drew here ready to go?
Drew is here ready to go. I also want to say one thing.
Sling it, Big Pimpin'.
I'm going to let you guys talk for a little bit, and then I'm going to open the doors for both of you to answer phone calls if that's okay.
All right.
Because I'm sure lots of people want to talk about Bengals, Reds, and everything else that we've talked about today. But without further ado,
there's
Garrison.
There's this handsome fella. Look
Hey.
at him, rocking the Bengals. Drew, how are you doing? Drew Garrison. If you guys don't follow him, he's one of the best follows on Twitter. Obviously, you know him in the chat. But I wanted to get someone that you will that you'd like, and it sounds like you're playing dad at the moment.
Yeah, you hear her crying. She just got the T. Higgins news.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's break down the T. Higgins news. Obviously, this has been the talk of the town for 2 months. What the heck are the Bengals going to do with T. Higgins? We thought we kind of nailed what it was going to be. He was just going to play on the franchise tag. Then he comes in today. Then he asked for a trade. What's your opinion on the whole matter?
I've said from the start, if you can't extend the guy, you need to trade him anyway. I think this is just Mulligetta posturing. And I also don't think the Bengals are going to blink. I don't think they're going to care. I don't think they're inclined to – she is mad. I don't think they're inclined to just she's not by herself. Her mother is with her. I just want to point that out. I am not a terrible father. She is being cared for.
She's got a great parody.
The Bengals aren't going to budge. Yeah, giant dog. We're good.
Right.
But look at history. Carson Palmer, I mean, it took an overwhelming offer for the Bengals to give in to his demands. I think the Bengals are prepared to wait this thing out. I think that if they got the right offer and somebody blew them away, they would go ahead and pull the trigger. But I don't think that they're going to go ahead and start working actively to trade T. Higgins if you just look at the history of how they operate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, though. Are you at all worried that T doesn't play, right? Like that. The thing is,
I can see that. I can see it turning very messy.
Yeah, sorry. It's interesting because that was a move that a lot of players did like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It hasn't been done a whole lot, but worst case scenario is that he doesn't play at all and you don't get anything for him. So this news, I think, hurts the Bengals' leverage. I agree with you. If they have a value that they have placed on T. Higgins. If they do not get that value, they will not trade him. But now I'm worried that this gets, as you mentioned, very messy and T. Higgins doesn't play at all.
The last person I can remember to do that was Le'Veon Bell, and it just didn't really work out for the guy. I don't know. Something tells me that, like, down at his core, if T. Higgins was like, all right, I'm not getting traded, but I can be there for Joe, I can be there for Jamar, I can show up for my guys, he'll probably show up and play. But we're in David Mulligetta territory, man, and the Bengals have never gotten a second contract done with Mulligetta ever. So outside of a rookie deal. So I don't know that anything's going to get done. But, I mean, if you get offered a first-rounder, Jacksonville calls and offers you 17, how do you really turn it down at that point? If you can get a 1 out of the guy and clear up the cap space now, if you can work quickly and you have more to work with here, you know, we got a half hour until legal tampering starts. So I don't know that a T. Higgins deal comes together within a half hour, but how do you not explore that? If Jacksonville's willing to give you 17, I think you have to take a look at it. That gives you more to work with now, and it gives you more draft capital a month from now. So I feel like that's something that you really have to entertain, but I just don't think that Duke Tobin and company are going to be working the phones looking for a T. Higgins suitor. I think somebody's going to have to call them and knock their socks off for them to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I've had the take for a long time that if you can get a 1 or an early second-round pick, you don't hang up the phone. You do the move right then and there. You make sure you get it done. You shake T. Higgins' hands. Thank you for your service. We've got to move on. You want to move on, but it is what it is. Is that signed by T?
I got the T helmet right there, man. This is a hard day for me. I love the guy, but as much as we love players, as much as I love the individuals that play for the team, and it's the name on the front of the jersey that's got to matter the most. So at the end of the day, what can be the best possible outcome for the Bengals in this situation? Everybody's like, well, you know, you need to find somewhere T wants to go. I don't care where T wants to go. Who's going to give me the highest offer? That's what matters in this situation. Love the guy, wish him well, hope he does great wherever he goes, preferably in the NFC. But at the end of the day, if the highest bidder is the Washington Commanders, congratulations, T. You're going to go play for Washington where their stadium dumps poop water on people. Sorry about it. They offered me the most for you.
Right. Yeah. It's not always greener on the other side. Casey, you're waving your hand over there.
Yeah, I got some breaking news.
Oh no! Oh no!
The Colts and Michael Pittman have agreed to a deal, a 3-year, $70 million deal that can reach up to 71.5, guaranteed $46 million.
That changes the market for T a little bit, right? Because we thought Pittman and him were not comparable, but at least a little closer to fair price. And with $70 million, it, I think, brings down T. Higgins' asking price a little bit, especially with the injuries. The one thing that you said that I thought was interesting was if the move is to trade T. Higgins, I'd rather them do it sooner rather than later so that they can get $20 million off the book and start going after some free agent signings. And I would like to hear your opinion on what they need to do on what I think is the biggest move, the interior defensive lineman. Obviously, Eric Armstead still available or just became available. Christian Wilkins, DJ Reader. I don't know what you think the Bengals should do on the defensive side.
I would love Christian Wilkins, but he's a David Mulligetta client too. I don't think. I'm not in the insider game, but I know some people, and it's going to be a miracle if DJ Reader comes back to Cincinnati. I've heard that. They have one interior defensive lineman on the roster for 2023, and it's BJ Hill. They're going to probably go after the lower tier guys like a Tier Tart or something like that. I can't see them just going into the season with BJ Hill and a few rookies at interior defensive line. So I think that they're going to be active in the market. For the big guys like the Armstead, I don't know if he's in the price range. And just the Christian Wilkins, just who his agent is, I don't think that that's on the table. Just there's just some disconnect between Mulligetta and the Bengals, and I think he's going to want a ton of guaranteed money that a team like Cleveland could give him because Jimmy Haslam is independently wealthy from scamming truck drivers. So I don't think that he's going to be on the Bengals' radar. Maybe Armstead, but I don't know that he's going to fall into their price range either. And I think that we'll know a little bit more about that if they decide to pass on a Mike Onwenu for the offensive line and go for a guy like a Jermaine Illuminor who's going to be a little bit cheaper on a 2-year deal. I think they're going to try to spend their money, their big signings in the trenches on one side of the ball or the other. I just think that they're going to opt to go more offensive line if they do, because the guys that are at the top tier of these interior defensive linemen, I just don't know if they're in the Bengals price range. I don't know if the Bengals are willing to budge on their stance of not wanting to sign guys to third contracts that are 30 or pushing 30. DJ Reader will be 30 on July 1st. So it's really interesting to see what they're going to do there, because they're going to have to break their mold somewhere if they're going to sign one of these bigger name guys.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something, which is what the Bengals, to their credit, have done for the past few years, done something that they haven't done in the past, right? And it's a constant molding about this Bengals team. We try to tell ourselves this Bengals team isn't what they used to be. I think that it's probably wise that they aren't giving guys third contracts. I think it's probably wise that they don't want to sign these over-the-hill guys. But at some point, you've got a lot of holes to fill, and you got a lot of money to fill those holes. So you talked about what they can do on the offensive line. We talked T. Higgins. We talked interior linemen. The other big one, and you as a part of Bengals Twitter know that it's about as hot button as it gets. What in the heck do the Bengals do with Joe Mixon? And you knew I was going to ask you about it. I hope I'm not putting you too hard out on a ledge here. What do you think the Bengals should do with Joe Mixon?
Well, I've never been in the camp of you have to be on one side or the other. It's turned into a very toxic situation. But I think the reality of the situation is Joe Mixon's going to be gone. He's got a $3 million roster bonus that's due on the 18th. I think that you're going to know his future a few days before then. I think the Bengals will probably try to do him the respect of getting him on the market relatively early. But barring another pay cut, I just don't see him coming back. I don't think that the running back is used quite enough in the Bengals offense. I think that they're going to – you look at the Chiefs, right? Like they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. The guy's getting ready to go to a new team. They draft Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round. The guy's a monster. I think that the running back position is just too easily replaceable. You can draft a guy in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, however good you think they are, every few years and just cycle those guys in and look for guys that can pass protect, because the Bengals are a pass-heavy offense anyway. So I don't think that the money makes sense for Mixon to stay. I'm not a Mixon cutter, I think, that people have been labeled or anything like that. I just think the reality of the situation is I love Joe Mixon. I think the team was better with Joe Mixon last year, over 1,400 yards, all-purpose, double-digit touchdowns. I think the guy's great. I just think from a financial standpoint, the position he plays with his age, they're going to make a move away. They re-signed Travion today. I think they're going to look at running back pretty actively in the draft once you get into like the 3rd to 5th range. So my prediction would be that Mixon would be gone. And that stinks for me because he's been another one of those guys like a Tyler Boyd who was here when it was bad, was kind of a glue guy, helped make things good again. So it'll be tough to see that. But at the end of the day, I think Joe Mixon leaves before free agency is all said and done.
Oh man, Drew, you were singing to my ears when you were talking about the running back position is easily replaced, and that's the big key, right? When you talk about what the Bengals need to do to be competitive again, you talk about all the positions, right? They're probably going to need a pass catcher. They're probably going to need a running back. They're probably going to need a veteran in the secondary. They're going to need an interior lineman, and they're going to need a right tackle. And 2 of those things are much harder to replace than the others. And that's what you were singing earlier about spending money at those 2 positions. And I think that is what the Bengals are going to do. But at the end of the day, Joe Mixon, it doesn't seem viable to be giving him $11 million, whatever it is. I know that there's been some names, like if the Bengals did get a guy in free agency, are there any names that come to your mind? I know the big names out there, Saquon, Derrick Henry. If you're going to get those, what's the difference between, in all honesty, him and a Joe Mixon price range-wise? So if you're trying to cut money, a guy like Zach Moss, I don't know if there's any names that you would think in free agency that the Bengals should go after.
I would think that they would be in on like an A.J. Dillon type guy if they went to the running back market in free agency. I think he would be in a price range that they're acceptable with. I think he's a solid enough pass protector that they would be comfortable with it. I don't think like Derrick Henry, people have said that like if you get Derrick Henry, Joe Burrow is going to have to go under center much more than he wants to. I just don't think that that's ever going to happen. I like the prospect of a Saquon. I really like Saquon. I know he has some injury issues, but I think that he could be really, really good in the Bengals offense if used correctly. But yeah, like the Zach Moss range, the A.J. Dillon range, I think that's probably more where they would be players in the running back market if they're looking to sign a vet.
All right, final question I'll ask you about what the Bengals need to do this offseason, because there's so many different routes they can go. And I brought it up earlier that we're going to have to see how the dust settles, right, with the free agent market first and see what happens with T, see what happens with Joe, see what happens if they sign a defensive interior guy, see if they sign a tackle in the free agency. But if you put on your Nostradamus hat right now and said this is what the Bengals are going to be going after on the 18th overall pick, where do you say? What position?
I like Johnny Newton out of Illinois. I think Johnny Newton has Geno Atkins-like ability.
Okay.
But if I'm the Bengals and Brock Bowers is there around pick 14 somehow, I'm not sure that he will be, but I'm on the phone because I don't think he's making it past Indianapolis. There's been like an anti-Brock Bowers kind of campaign I've seen on Bengals Twitter. I don't get it. I think that he would unlock a phenomenal element to the offense, especially if you lose a T. Higgins and you're counting on a Yoshevach to replace him. So I think that would be it. But let's say the Bengals sign a right tackle, whether that be Illuminor, whether they get Mike and Winnie to play right tackle. Can they convince Trent Brown to play right tackle? I don't know. But let's say that they sign somebody to play right tackle that's a vet. I think that puts the interior defensive line very much in play at 18, because they're not going to have to pick a Latham. They're not going to have to pick a Mims if they're not sold on one of those guys, because they have a 2-year stopgap. And I've been on record saying I'm tired of the stopgaps. I get it. So I'd rather I really like Trent Brown. If you can get him to pay tackle, give him a good contract, I think we roll, and you can get him for a few years. But if they even do like an Illuminor, I think that they're going to be okay with that, and they're going to do another Band-Aid at right tackle, a Riley Reif type, Lyle Collins type situation. And then that opens the door for the interior defensive line, because I don't think that Reader's going to be back. I don't think that they're going to sign anybody that's going to be a huge impact player from the free agent market. So the way to get that is a Johnny Newton from Illinois, who is an absolute animal. So that's probably where I would lean, assuming that they do sign somebody to play the right tackle spot. Right. And I think that they will. I just don't think it's going to be a big splash. I think like a Jermaine Illuminor is really in the range there. He's been gushing over Joe Burrow on Twitter. People have been pulling up the old tweets.
It's I'm in the same camp as you. I'm overpaying tackles for the stopgap. I'm over the veterans. But when I say that, I would love if the Bengals went and got someone in the draft. The big caveat is I want them to hit on it, right? Like, I would rather have a stopgap than a terrible waste of it. Yeah, and they haven't hit there. So the safer call is, hey, you just get a veteran. He'll be okay. I would just love if we get someone to pair with Joe. Then you go, this is the right tackle of the future. But obviously, they've got to hit on that, and that's not the easiest thing. All right, we talked Bengals. Let's talk AFC North. Russell Wilson, Steelers. Any opinion on that? Because some say, what's it matter? They're the Steelers. They don't look very good. Russell Wilson didn't look very good in Broncos. I think if they win 10 games with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson makes them a lot more viable and a threat to win the AFC North. It's nightmare scenario for me. But your opinion on Russell Wilson going to the Steelers?
He's super, super corny. I think it's going to be hilarious when George Pickens inevitably throws him under the bus because he missed him and he threw a pick or something like that. But the reality of the situation is Pittsburgh got better, and that stinks. I don't like that. We can make fun of Russ for being corny and all that. He had a pretty solid year last year. He wasn't blowing anybody out of the water with the mess in Denver before he got benched. But I don't think that it's possible to say that they didn't get better with this move. Certainly. I'm personally glad that a Russell Wilson landed there instead of a Justin Fields because Russ is a little bit older. So Bengals fan, bright side, I think this stops them from finding their franchise guy because it's not Kenny Pickett. So maybe this stops them from finding that guy for a year or two, and they're getting the end of the days for Russ. But I mean, they got him for dirt cheap. Denver's got to pay him like $38 million. Like you said, they won 10 games with Rudolph and Pickett, and to be honest, they swept the Bengals last year with those two guys. So they definitely got better. I don't like it, but they'll continue to make fun of Russell Wilson.
Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, 5th and a 6th. I don't like Jerry Jeudy hasn't panned out to what everyone thought he was, but he's still that talent. He still shows flashes of being a guy that can be a number one and a pretty good number one at that, but he hasn't been to that to this point in his career. Does that move the needle at all for your thoughts on the Browns?
I just want to know who Andrew Berry has dirt on and how he keeps getting receivers for nothing. He definitely hasn't. I mean, people are calling him a cancer and all this stuff. He's been in Denver. Denver's been a mess. I don't know how much I really want to put stock into the disaster that has been the Broncos the last couple years. I think that he's extremely talented. He's a very good route runner. Now, I still haven't seen anything from Deshaun Watson that proves to me that he's going to take advantage of these weapons, the Elijah Moores, the Amari Coopers, the Jerry Judys. But I think their wide receiver room definitely got better, but how much longer are we going to wait to see 2020 Deshaun Watson?
Right.
I haven't seen it yet. He had like one good game against Baltimore last year. If
Deshaun Watson turns into what he used to be, there's no doubt that the Broncos aren't just – or the Browns all of a sudden become a not a good team, but a contender. Like right away.
I mean, look at him last year with Flacco.
Right, and the AFC North then has 3 really true contenders between the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens. And maybe I'm being a little too hard of a fan saying that the Bengals are contenders, but when Joe Burrow's healthy, they're contenders. So, yeah, I'll continue to call them contenders.
Yeah, absolutely.
With no. All right, how was the honeymoon? I got to know. Out in Vegas, you did not bankrupt Vegas, but
I did not. That was the goal, but I did not. I ended up sick for one day. Like I slept for like 20 hours that Tuesday. It was pretty rough. I don't know what I came down with, but I had a good time out there. I will say I'm more of the middle class guy, so I like Fremont Street a lot better. I went over to the Strip. I went to Caesar's Palace, ordered 2 vodka Red Bulls. It was $51. That was a culture shock for me. But I had a good time out there, man. I convinced her to marry me. I successfully got her to the altar without letting her realize that she could do better. So that's a big win for me. So everything else was just kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah, shout out Total Quality Logistics for playing matchmaker between you two.
The only good thing that came out of that.
Hey, Drew.
I got fired like 2 months after we got together.
Well, hey, you won. You won that. You won that transaction.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations
100%.
On getting married. Congratulations on the honeymoon. It was nice yapping it up with you. Congratulations on the move on your show with you and the Bengalorian. Going on big play.
Thank you.
But, Yeah, congratulations on all that. Thank you for hopping on. Also, thank you for being in the chat every day. We love you. We love you, Drubert.
I love it there, man. I ignore my job for 2 hours every day.
Yeah, hopefully your job doesn't see that you're on the show today. So we'll get you off before they become wiser.
Yeah.
All right, Drubert. Thank you. See you later.
Thanks, man. See you.
Yep, see you, man. I love Drew Garrison. This guy's funny. He's witty. He knows his Bengals stuff too. Blue collar Bengals. Drew Garrison. He's great. So thank you for coming on. Congratulations once again. Man, Sean Spurlock dropping some news. Just reported Justin Fields will not be traded, and the Bears will look to trade the first pick. He was right about Russell Wilson. Man, I'm not doing the Bears thing again today. I'll do it later in this week. I'm not doing the Bears, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yes.
That'll probably be one of your first things we talk about. But I had a feeling that this is what was going to happen, to be honest with you.
That the Bears were going to stay with Justin Fields?
No one, listen, it's not that I don't like Justin Fields. I just don't think anyone trusts Justin Fields to trade for him. And it makes more sense for the Bears to continue to build up their roster.
That was Antonio Brown.
What?
I didn't know that. CT ESPN is Antonio Brown.
Oh.
I reported that. All right. You got me. You pulled my leg. You got me. We're at the end of the 2-hour show, so it's gonna feel a little wonky. We will be doing box lunch and just yapping it up around here for a little bit. I didn't put anything in the J bar, but we can continue talking. Maybe play Quiplash because we haven't played Quiplash in a while. I'd like to play that. So, Casey, any thoughts on what me and Drew talked about? Any thoughts on the reports today with the Bengals? I know we talked about quite a bit, but
so the biggest thing for me is just that news with Michael Pittman Jr. That's a 3-year, $23 million per year deal. $46 million guaranteed is a year and a half, maybe 2 years guaranteed for Michael Pittman, which is pretty comparable to me to T. Higgins. I feel like that should be a deal that's worth looking into, but I think at this point we already know where the Bengals stand. They haven't talked to him in a whole year, so that's the most disappointing part. That's the only thing I really has been stuck in my mind for this whole show is just how can you not talk to him for a whole year, or at least try to mend that bridge if there was a burn bridge at some point there, because that's what it feels like to me. You don't talk to a guy for a whole year that you want to stay long term. Right. Feels like there was some sort of excommunication there for one of the two camps. So
right, there's news that Sean also put in there. I sent you a DM before the show started about Kendall Fuller. One of the names, the Bengals are linked to him, cornerback Kendall Fuller.
Yep.
I think we all anticipated that at some point the Bengals were going to get veteran, going to get some older guys in that secondary. But behind Joe Burrow, I think I'm highest on the future of this secondary, and I know that they got torched this past year, very young, but I love Cam Taylor-Britt. What's my old adage? Former Husker, current Bengal, future star. I like Jordan Battle. He's the highest-rated rookie safety. I think Dax Hill has shown some things at times. I think Juan Drago Turner, DJ Turner, has the capability of being a successful starting cornerback in this league. But they do need some depth there. They do need some veterans. I think there's a lot of safety veteranship. Are we going to talk about that? That everyone laughed at the Bengals. Ha, ha, ha. They didn't re-sign Jesse Bates for $20 million a year. Jesse Bates had a career year for the Falcons. And what's the free agent market looking for safeties now? It looks pretty good. It looks like you can maybe not get the quality player that Jesse Bates is, but someone similar to it for half the price. That pretty good to me. Listen, guys, I don't know how many times I can bang the drum on this, but it's so deep in my brain that I got to continue to say it. Linebackers, safeties, running backs. These are positions that, yeah, there's elite guys. But the bell curve right in the middle, you're going to get pretty good production for spending less money. Now, wide receiver, I think, can get to that level. The most important position, it's the reason that they're the hardest to find, is quarterback, tackles, edge rushers, and cornerbacks. I think the Bengals are going to be fine. I know this is the, what did I label it as? What does other people labeled it as? The most important offseason in Bengals history. The Bengals have shown to me that they're pretty smart. The Bengals front office has hit on guys. They're free agents. Been majority hits. Who have they missed on? Trey Waynes? Hit on Awuzie. They hit on Trey Hendrickson. They hit on Ogunjobi. They hit on pretty much the entire line to some extent, right? It's middling production, but it's production. It's gotten better. And on top of that, they've walked away more often than not at the right time. Walked away from C.J. Uzomah. He's a free agent again. Walked away from Hayden Hurst. He's a free agent again. Both didn't have the production that they had in Cincinnati. And Tanner Hudson, their second round, or the guy who was a D2 quarterback, had probably the most productive year in the last 3 at the tight end position. He didn't even play the whole year. They decided to walk away from Jesse Bates III, and now the safety market is exploded with talent. So I know you don't want to hear this. I know the whole sports talk show is, us predicting what happens and us talking about what happens. But I'm going to say something that you're going to hate, and that's just have a little bit of faith. I think the Bengals have earned it. Do I want to see them hit on draft picks at a higher rate? Certainly. I think last year was a very good draft for them. I really do. But the years prior, outside of Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, outside of them, right? Logan Wilson, Evan McPherson, there's not a whole lot of feasting going on. But the Bengals, more often than not, the T. Higgins stuff does scare me. Luke Brown, last year's draft sucked. What are you talking about, Luke? Am I crazy for thinking that that's a crazy take? I know it's because Myles Murphy didn't play a whole lot, right? I know it's because Myles Murphy didn't turn out the way that you would expect a first-round draft. But we're talking what? Jordan Battle played very well. DJ Turner played very well. Who's our 4th-round pick? Charlie Jones?
Yeah, but
we'll see. Well, Charlie Jones actually probably is a miss more than not. We got Yoshivas in the 6th round.
Here's what I think, Luke. Last year's draft will suck if they do sign Kendall Fuller, because their 1st and 2nd round picks did absolutely nothing for them long term. And there's still some
depth is so important though. But like it's not like, I think Kendall Fuller is a depth piece.
No, that's not a depth piece.
No,
I
think starter. That makes them. That's a starter. But I'm saying it adds depth to the team. I don't think that negates what the draft is.
Well, I mean, what was the point in getting DJ Turner then as your 2nd round guy? That's all I'm saying is you should either you get Kendall Fuller as your number 1. Cam Taylor slides over to number 2. You already have Mike Hilton at your 3rd. Dax Hill's got to play somewhere. He's going to be your 3rd safety, probably dropping down in the box and playing the other slot. So then you're saying the guy that played half the year last year is not going to be starting at all. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't think that the 1st-round pick. I'm starting to feel more in the Luke Brown camp, to be honest with you. I like Chase Brown. I like Yoshi. I like Charlie Jones, but they didn't do a whole lot last year. Why are people so excited about these guys that didn't do a whole lot last year and who were hurt last year?
DJ Turner, 2nd-round cornerback.
Up and down.
And down.
If they
saw more up at the end of the year than down. DJ Turner will be a solid cornerback in this league. Cam Taylor-Britt will be a star cornerback in this league. Jordan Battle was the highest rated safety from rookies last year. We got Jordan Battle in the 3rd. Charlie Jones returned a kick return for a touchdown. That's about all he did. Charlie Jones is a bad pick, I think, but there's still room to go. Chase Brown is going to be it might be our RB1 going forward, and I feel pretty confident that he could do a good job at that. Andre Yoshivas, 4 touchdowns. That's pretty good production out of a 6th-round wide receiver. Brad Robbins sucked. DJ Ivey, we'll see what happens. I mean, he's a 7th-round cornerback. Guys, last year's draft was pretty good. Now they need to take the step, right? But I feel overly confident saying that last year's draft was a boom more than it was a bust. And getting a veteran. The idea was always to get a veteran secondary piece.
A veteran safety, not a veteran corner, because we already have depth there at corner. We already invested in that. That maybe I'm wrong, and that's not how the Bengals feel about it. But to be honest with you, I don't see how you could go either way, saying it's a bust or a boom either way, because our 1st-round pick didn't start. 2nd-round guy was up at the beginning and then really took a downward spiral towards the end, which is it's hard to really judge him because we didn't have some of our key pieces on the D-line. That kind of affects your cornerback play a lot. Yes, Jordan Battle was a good pick, I think. Charlie Jones out most of the season. He had 1 really good return, but we love to make fun of him going east and west. Yoshi didn't get to play a whole lot. Had some flashes. Chase Brown, I like Chase Brown, but he only played half the year. All I'm saying is, like, it's not – I don't think you can really say that this was a good draft class yet.
Is it crazy for me to say that last year's draft class was the 2nd best that the Bengals have had in the last 6 years? It's better than 2022. That's all Dax Hale and Cam Taylor-Britt. And Cordell Volson, they got a starting guard in the 4th. But I think it's better than that. Zach Carter's doing nothing.
No.
Tyson Anderson, gone. See you later. Jeff Gunner. Who?
Tyson Anderson's still on the roster.
I know, but he's not doing anything. It's certainly better than 2021. 2021's draft was booty. Other than Jamar Chase and Evan McPherson. Once again, great guys, but Jackson Carman, kidding me? Osai, Cam Sample, Tyler Shelvin, Deontay Smith, Chris Evans. Now, 2020s was great. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Logan Wilson. That's pretty solid. But I once again, closer to a boom than it is a bust. Once again, these guys got to take a step. And that's, I think, maybe the scariest part about the future of the Bengals is they're going to rely on the youth to take a step up, but so is everyone, right? When you get in a salary cap league, you got to have some faith, and what we've seen from the guys is that they're able to contend. Now the Bengals once again playing the hardest division in football. It's not going to be the easiest thing, but it's officially past 12, so it is officially free agency has opened up. We will do this cherry on top. So I'm a proud Hamiltonian. And Hamilton had a great week. The Big Blue more than anything else. So here's our cherry on top.
Which one do you want me to show first?
The video. Casey. That is incredible. Guys, if you haven't seen this, is Andre Holden. Run it one more time. Will it run again just naturally? Here we go. Oh, my goodness. That is over. That kid that he dunked over is going to Purdue. And Andre Holden's just going to a D2 school, Tiffin. Big Blue win their first district title since 2004. Big Blue did something else that year in 2004, 20 years ago. I think they were state champs. Not saying it's going to happen again, but congratulations to Hamilton Big Blue. Hamilton and Baden. So we get our start in high school, but, man, that is a man's dunk. The Eagles are leading the way and getting Saquon Barkley, Everett Henry says. What? Guys, I think the Eagles are going to take another step back. Anything else that we want to get on? Any other points you want to take?
Nope, we'll save it for tomorrow.
All right, we'll save it for tomorrow. We got about 8 more hours Thank you guys all for being here. This is where I kick back. I'm not going to lie. I was worried. I was a little worried when I was sitting down writing my monologue. What am I going to talk about tomorrow? And then luckily the gods, the NFL gods, maybe God himself, Yahweh, came on down and said, we're going to give you a bunch of news to talk about. Thank you to Drew Garrison for hopping on. Thank you to the guys in Las Vegas for sending that video. That was incredibly constructive. So we will see you tomorrow. We will be doing a box lunch. We'll be yapping it up, playing a little Quiplash, just hanging out. We got some work to do today, so it will be a shorter show, and box lunch is getting harder to do while I'm hosting, but it will get back to where it was. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.